republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Get friends on that side.
All right. So what we're doing here tonight is it is a public hearing, but it's a work session. More important than anything, and we're just trying to get through some of the details that we put the other night, approaching midnight, and we just move on, get too tired. So, I don't even remember a lot of the stuff you did on your list, John, or everything what you did.
I think the most beneficial thing, Steve, would be for you to go through, I mean, how do you wanna do this? Cause this is your meeting, so do you wanna go through lists and try to hammer out issues, or do you have a response to those lists?
So pretty much from what we had talked about last time, we had said, you know, there's not a high bar for a lot of these items. I think we had agreed pretty much to all of these items. There was some like Scrivener items, as well as maybe some mathematical issues we just need to review with Altus relative to drainage. Probably the biggest issue is just in regards to access for the roadway, as we talked last time. With an 18-foot driveway, I should say roadway, as we were looking at a waiver for that and what the rationale was behind that. And Chair had come up with a couple of questions relative to the size of the vehicles, and I've done exhibits for you to show you the different size vehicles and what that does for the radius and the pavement layer areas within the right-of-way itself, or I should say within the cul-de-sac. The larger truck, if you look at that, whether or not that's something you guys are inclined to do or not, just want to review that with you guys so you can see what the ramifications are, and if there's a way to address that, maybe with signage or not. But if you, the first one that you have on your list there, I think this is the one that probably we just need to talk about first. This really relates to the waiver. This is WV62, a large truck, and if you come up the roadway on 18-foot, you can go the 18-foot no problem. But the red line that you're looking at is actually the wheel movement of the tractor, I'm sorry, of the trailer itself. So as you can see that, you would be having to add about 11.5 feet. It's actually 11 feet, I gave myself a half a foot, about 11 feet of pavement on the inside of the cul-de-sac to be able to accommodate basically the largest tractor trailer truck that runs around on the highways without being a tandem. And the 3.5 feet on the outside edge as you come back out of the cul-de-sac, I just 3.25 feet, I just carried that all the way around. That's probably 0 or a half a foot anyways, but just so you can see what the difference is for the outside edge. The next one is a WB 50, again 53-foot total length. On that one, same thing, the wheel as you come across is red. You would have about 4 feet of asphalt on the inside, and then 3.25 on the outside just to handle the outside edge. Again, that could be a foot, foot and a half, but I was just being conservative on that. And I think one of the comments from the meeting minutes was, you know, going with a larger shoulder, whether that's paved or gravel. So again, that's the other one. And the last one in your package, and that was actually the one that we had shown you guys previously. That's a WB 40. That one actually fits within the 18-foot of pavement without impacting the 2-foot gravel shoulder. And Brandon, I think, can give you guys a little bit more insight in terms of what they do with the tractors that they actually have to hire for their business and what they actually see for accessing around the building. So that's really the crux of whether or not we pave the inside of that cul-de-sac because we're trying to accommodate the largest truck on the road, or something therein. And that's kind of the conversation and pleasure of the board at this point. I have seen, even in town here, other place, that you can post them, no tractor trailers as well. So you have that option as well for this road. So I think from a general sense, open for conversation and discussion, what do you guys wanna do?
Said Brandon, wanted to say something?
Yeah, if you don't mind. So, I think obviously, we're willing to acquiesce that the cul-de-sac can't be an 18-foot wide track, right? I don't think that works for anybody. I think the big difference here is between, you know, a 35-foot inside track of pavement, which is substantial, to accommodate a 48-foot box. The issue with these 48-foot boxes, and, you know, have ones meandered down roads before that they shouldn't be on, of course they have. They aren't used for residential purposes. The only way that you can unload anything from the back of a 48-foot box is via a loading dock, which is strictly non-residential. Typically what you have to do is have a lift gate on the back, which only come on the shorter base box trucks, okay? So anytime there's residential deliveries, that's the question that you're going to get asked is, do you have a loading dock versus a residence? And typically you put it on a short truck. Naturally that costs a little bit more because they don't carry as much on one long trip. So sometimes people skip over that and accidents can be made. So I think what the crux of this whole thing is, hey, you can go 35 foot and make sure that absolutely everything that could possibly come down that road will never come off of a paved surface. Or, you know, is there some kind of a happy middle ground that we can find there? And that's kind of at the pleasure of the board at this point, where you won't find an argument, I don't think, from us on it. It's just, just try to rationally take into consideration the best use of the land.
Anyone from the board? Just for the record tonight, Bob's not here, Ben's not here. Who else is missing?
Peter.
Peter. So both alternates will be, you know, full board members as if, so I just wanna make sure you understood that. So, Jim?
Yeah, I actually left the meeting here and I'm pretty wound, so I did a little driving. But I had to make the,
Midnight.
literally.
So did I, Jim, just for the record.
What?
I
So
did
did
all the way home.
no, I'm sorry. And there's two factors. One I said in the meeting, and I liked it the more I drove, which is the Mylar gets registered under an 18-foot, because Chris had said, hey, why don't you build the base and we don't have to do it later? And then I made the statement, why should they pay for a development that's not their development for their family? And if it does break through in future generations and they wanna make it a road, it ain't going through 18 foot, it's gonna get ripped up, made full length. And if someone wants to cut through, they have to make it full length. So then I started thinking about it going,
You mean with?
with, yes, if they break through. So in some respects, I came up with a silly, and I'm sure it may not work. If this is a private road, and this cul-de-sac is part of that private road, that cul-de-sac and that road can have some aesthetic looking, in my mind, exceptions, but the second it goes for cut through, you lose everything and you redo all, it gets all redone. All bets are off, the road's gone, the cul-de-sac's gone, it's built to proper standards, because what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing is right now a family type of situation. You right now, while you're all alive, you don't wanna sell it in the future, it may break through. I think it's the breakthrough's responsibility to handle any of that. And if to have a huge cul-de-sac in an area that is gonna get used by people who do it by mistake, or they're just gonna run over the lawn. They're gonna back up over the lawns, they're gonna do whatever they used to do. Because I used to ride in 40-foot trailers and even doubles. And what they used to do was horrible. So I don't know if what I'm saying is even doable, but the only part that I was saying is at the very end, if we can come to a happy exception, but that exception goes away the moment this becomes a road, goes for town acceptance, or it's broken through. In other words, there's exceptions, I think they're very valid until this becomes anything more than what it is. Then it's all new cost all over again, so it gets done twice.
Let me just remind the board, we do not have a private road standard. So every single road in town has to be built to town standards. So what we're talking about doing is waiving the pavement width from 22 to 18 But it doesn't preclude the Acreleys or their heirs or assigns or anybody else the ability to come to the town and ask for road acceptance. So the road will be built to town standards, except for the width. But I think, Jim, you're absolutely right. If the road were ever to be extended or, you know, then things might have to change. Personally, I don't see that happening, because I don't think there's a connection that will ever be made. But, your point is well taken. So, I think, you know, we've gotta look at the turning templates and say, what is a reasonable sized truck that we can expect on this road? Is a 62 footer reasonable? I don't know. I mean, I see 50s on my street, and I live on a cul-de-sac fairly regularly. Not, you know, not every day, but I would say monthly I see them, and they get them down, and they back all the way down, so there's nowhere to turn. So you know, it's gonna be a balancing act.
Have you seen good balance in examples of where you have seen the situation come up?
Well, first of all, these turning templates are, you know, Steve is sitting in his office drawing these with CAD. Is this the best a truck driver can do? I don't know. You know, maybe a truck driver could, I mean, I have a CDL, I used to drive a truck. Could you do better? Maybe, you know, I mean, the first thing I said was, I think I'd go the other way. I would come in and take a right around there, but it might make it worse. I'd have to see what the drawing looked like. So what are we gonna design this road to? I don't know. You know, and if we design it to a WB 50, which is the second page, you know, they're barely off the pavement, or they're on the inside, you know, by what, 4 feet?
Well, they're off the pavement, a little over 3 feet. I gave myself a half a foot just for,
Okay.
or whatever, but.
Okay. So, I mean, you guys gotta decide what's acceptable. I mean, in the third case, what is it, a 40-foot box?
Yeah.
They're fine.
Yeah.
So-
There's a lot of stuff that goes into this as well. I mean, the fact of the matter is, it's Fox Point, it's a dead end road. I don't know if you're going down to Fox Point unless you're going there for Fox Point. Same thing with this cul-de-sac, but again, up to you guys. This was,
So, one of the things that when Steve's doing the auto turn, there's a wheel lock, but it's also at a certain speed. So it doesn't take into account for the vehicle stopping and turning that wheel all the way. So it is a fairly conservative approach. One of the things I just kind of noodled on that at least might fix coming out of the cul-de-sac and the lap, instead of going straight into that cul-de-sac, you actually kind of bend, so you're coming in towards the center of it, and so that there's a little bit of a jog. Please note, we use cash, that is why it looks this way.
so just so you know, what, we try to do these layouts for all these reasons, right? So we know that different truck drivers will be better than others. So with the software that we utilize, which is pretty much standard, everyone uses the same stuff so that everyone has kind of the same parameters that we're talking about. We try to do this as conservative as possible, right? Can I tweak this? Yes. Can I make this a little bit better? Yes. But if I do that, Eric is gonna say, well, you know, what happens if? And so I try to do this as conservatively as possible, which means show you guys what the impact possibly could be. So personally, I think there's a balance here. You know, are you gonna get a 62 every day? No. But are you might get someone with a delivery truck? Yes.
What if, Eric, to your point on your drawing, and this is something that's come from the board before, what if we were able to make the western side of that cul-de-sac a little bit, where it re-enters the road, a little bit more teardrop shaped than it is, you know, abrupt radius?
Well, we don't want the inside of the teardrop, because then they can't really drive around with the snowplow.
They don't turn around with the snowball. They go in and out of it.
Yeah.
I watch them all the time.
In and out,
Like-
or really? They back out?
No, they go in and leave.
One strip.
Oh,
Then they come
shot.
back and make another pass, and they go out.
Oh, okay, got it.
By doing that teardrop more, I think, gets you at least your exit a little bit better, or you can go either direction around. It fixes this side, it doesn't do anything
For the circle.
on the inside. And I
So-
think it is a it's a balance of.
Yeah, so we had actually looked at different configurations of the cul-de-sac when we came up with this site layout. What we were trying to do was try to minimize the amount of roadway that we had and maximize the length of the lots. So we did go through that, and so what we have here. I'd like to go with what we have here, just whether or not the width needs what you guys wanna do. And that's really up to, that's the first conversation. I mean, we can well post it, private road, no trucks. I've seen that at different locations as well.
That's not,
But
that
we
means
know,
nothing.
but we know whoever, some guy's gonna come down there and oops, I made the wrong turn, but, I don't know how best to.
Yeah, when someone moves in, someone moves out, do they have to haul their furniture out to the Foxway Road?
Hey, this, again, you should, whatever you wanna do. Short answer is, based on the cul-de-sac width, we'd like to keep the 18 feet along the roadway. I'd prefer not to have 34 feet of pavement in the cul-de-sac, and know that we have some compromise therein.
Well, what he's saying is 34, go from the 18 to get the WB 62, you have to add pavement on the inside to make it, so it'd be 34 essentially. So that doesn't make sense.
You gotta add 11.5 feet on the inside, and then you gotta add about 3.25. Yeah. 15 feet, basically.
Yeah.
Well, I think that just reduces the amount of pavement.
You don't plow.
My snow.
No,
I used to
no.
plow 4 years ago.
I understand.
Anyone else?
I'm just saying, we generally prefer a teardrop, I would think, right, because no one's really circling the circle all the time. So in other words, what Eric was saying about trying to make it more teardrop, I think kind of makes sense from everybody's perspective.
Plows can't continuously go around pushing snow a circle of that radius. They can't do it. They have to back up and then keep going, because when they get the blade on an angle, they keep pushing it, especially if you got heavy snow. They just can't do it. And they can go in and do half a circle. That's why a teardrop is so nice. It's basically half a circle. So, Chris, you wanna say something?
Only that we have a requirement for cul-de-sacs, we have a requirement, 22 feet of pavement, whereas the cul-de-sacs, that's all they're asking for. I don't think in the middle of application, it's time to redesign a cul-de-sac. If they meet the 22 feet, the damage, if there is gonna be some on the inside, I think the road ought to be posted. Dead end, no trucks beyond X feet, whatever WB 40, or what's the one that stays on the pavement?
40 stays in the pavement.
Okay, WB 40, so that's posted, that's not gonna stop anybody. But I'm sorry, Dennis, none of us here are experts on snow plowing, on fire trucks, or anything else. We have a lot of experience. Eric has a lot of design experience, and he has a professional degree on it. But now, as far as a requirement, we're gonna apply, our standing requirements are 22 feet with a cul-de-sac that has certain radiuses. They're gonna meet the outer radiuses with the 22 feet. They go in and put it on the end there. So I'm not in favor of modifying the design that we have. They're willing to put that here, and I think that what we do in the end is we post that and put a postings for not beyond that footage. Other than that, we haven't gone through a public hearing, we haven't gone through bringing proper evaluations and measurements for it. And so this is an area where, yeah, we can waive something, but we don't really know what we're doing and what the results are gonna be. So my feeling is 22 feet on the P-tape circle as they designed with the 30-foot curvatures at the corner. So,
But Chris, Steve, to be clear, the cul-de-sac is 18 in these drawings.
Yeah, the black lines you see
That's 18
is
feet of
18
pavement.
feet of pavement.
So the road is, yeah.
What Chris is saying is your standards are 22-foot
Right,
pavement.
I thought, Chris, you were saying that the cul-de-sac is gonna be 22, but the main road was gonna be 18.
He was saying that if we.
That's what I thought we left it.
No,
We left it on, when we left this meeting, that you, correct me if I'm wrong, indicate you're willing to accept 18 feet on the main roadway, that's 1,300 feet. And cul-de-sac, to leave it at 22, because that doesn't change what our specs are. And that's what we have on the books.
That was the question that I left here with Chris was, can we just live by the ordinance of the cul-de-sac and leave the road width at 18?
And I'm saying that requires a waiver of nothing. They've met the standards then, as far as the cul-de-sac is concerned. And that's what I'd like to see.
You're dead right, that's how we left it. There would be a waiver on the main road, because it's going from a 22 requirement to an 18, but we're holding them to the 22 around the circle. Okay, so there is one waiver, unless, John? There is one waiver that we would have to grant
yes,
or
yeah,
propose.
yeah, and that's been, yes, it was asked for quite a while ago. Yep.
So, I thought you said the edge of pavement was the blue line, that's what shows on the drawings.
No, it's
The blue is the edge of pavement to capture the rear wheels of the tractor, the trailer.
And that's a 22-foot wide?
No,
for 50.
the black line is 18 feet of pavement. The blue line is the additional width of pavement. And so if you go 18 and go to 22 feet, you still have 2-foot shoulders on either side.
So Steve, at station 12 plus 00,
Station
how
12
wide is that, wheel to wheel?
On the first sheet, which sheet are you looking at?
Oh, I'm sorry, on V2. The WB50.
So you would have 18 plus 3 is 21 plus 4.
At station 12,
25.
12 plus 00?
At 12 plus 00, you essentially have 20, no.
3 and 1.
The way this is looked at right now, we have this drawn right now, you would have 18 feet of black, 4 feet on the inside, that's 22, and 3 feet on the outside, that's 27, plus you have 2-foot shoulders.
I think part of your problem is you've got 3/4 of a circle you're trying to go around, and also how you're entering it, you're turning to the right as you go towards the cul-de-sac. You have quite a bit of land there, and I think as Eric showed, you would take that and to round that up, and made a bigger radius of, versus just 45, you made a bigger radius. And you also did the same thing for the cul-de-sac, for the inside circle, it's made like a teardrop. It would be the same amount of pavement, it would not be additional pavement, what I'm talking about. I don't necessarily agree with one part of what Eric did over there, and that's I should leave the circle at about station 1100 going towards 1000, 11 going towards 10. I think if you kept that there the way you wanted, you'll do that, but cut the corner off over here so that you match up to the side, and what winds up happening is that you'll find out the truck is gonna be more in favor of the line than staying on the pavement. That's, to me, is common sense. That's, if you've ever driven a truck, you understand that completely. I guess based on what you've given me and the image you've shown, I'm wanting to stick with the 22 feet with the side with the modified cul-de-sac that we've talked about. Keep the straight going in and out as you have it, but I think that will make it work. I think the whole thing will make it work, and I think if you look at Hannah Lane as a perfect example, there they have a huge teardrop, but you only have basically a half a circle to deal with. And I think it works, and where the trucks fail, where they get into troubles, they're almost turning the other way. But if you give that truck some leeway on the start, in other words, you cut that corner going into the circle, you'll find out that I think the rear wheels are pretty much gonna stay on, even for the longest trucks. So, that's just my 2 cents worth. That's what I think we should do. This is not rocket science. I think anyone could look at this and see that that would make sense. I am in favor of If you wanna go with the 18 feet, the board, we have some discussion on it, unless someone comes up with something different. But I think we could cut that out. And again, I'm gonna do a really rough drawing here. Really rough. I'm running out of ink.
Mr. Why don't I speak while you're writing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Chris has always been really good at looking at roads and kind of trying to take the policies that we have and seeing what's reasonable. The fact that Chris came down and went from normal road length at 22 feet for shoulder, and then bringing it up to, or whatever it is, 20 plus 4 to 24. Chris coming down to 18 with the caveat that if the road's broken through, it goes to full road length, because then it goes from a private to a road. And then him holding the cul-de-sac to road standards, I think is very reasonable. It was a, knowing Chris and knowing how we hold the rules, that was quite a gift.
Thank you. I guess, Dennis, Chairman, my only,
So that's
question
what,
is-
can you see that okay?
yeah, I understand what you're talking about.
Does everyone see what I'm talking about?
I guess my only question is, we were sent back last time with we need to discuss how wide the pavement's going to be around the cul-de-sac, not redesign the cul-de-sac. And now we're here on our 5th planning board meeting, and we're gonna redesign the shape of the cul-de-sac, which was not the question before. The question that I think we were
Okay,
asking.
hang on, stop, right there, you're starting to irritate me here.
Uh,
I've been sitting here waiting to make comments on this stuff. The last time I went to make comments, it was close to midnight, and we couldn't get around to doing it. So when you say I didn't have an opportunity to say something, or I could have said something, and I didn't, I think I've been talking about a teardrop since day one. All right, and then the other night, it was so late in the night, I said, I'm not even gonna tell you my comments, but this is one of my comments. This is not new. This is something, that's the reason why we're having the meeting tonight, to try to work through these things. So I tried.
Is that your standard right now for your town comment?
No, I'm trying to do what's good, what is good traffic flow. Right now, you can't meet the traffic flow. I'm trying to have something that does meet it. Okay?
Yeah, I don't mean to be argumentative with you, Dennis, but the shape of the cul-de-sac has been the same the entire time.
I haven't had, when is the first time we saw the shape of the cul-de-sac? Very first time.
I will also say I have your comments, and they don't have,
You can't have my comments. I haven't given my comments.
these are signed by you. Notice of decision, conditional approval,
Those are,
September.
those are just draft, that was a draft, and it was a decision.
No, that's just something when we,
Yeah, that hasn't even been acted on, I put it in the planning board's packet, in case there was a chance that the project was going to get approved.
that's something that John
So
put
this is
together.
not signed by Dennis. these
No,
are
no,
from you.
he would.
I didn't even see it.
No,
because-
he would sign it, and, no.
So when we were about to adjourn last week, you had mentioned, I wanna go through my points, but that's not what this is. You have your own points. Gotcha, excuse me.
Yeah, this is a typical draft conditional approval that the planning board would grant. We did one the other night for Subcom, I think, and I wrote it up in the same manner, and Dennis ended up, signing the final one, 2 days after the meeting, so that, if he saw that, no one on the board has agreed to this, or.
Not even, I didn't, he just put it together with my name on the bottom. He just does it
Right, it's a
automatically.
draft.
Understood, I took that the
Yeah.
wrong way.
Yeah.
Not having experience doesn't help a lot of times.
So you're asking for something which is a pretty big give on I understand that, 18 feet versus 22 feet, and I'm saying, I think you can do something here to help with your traffic flow and the truck traffic that's gonna be going in, including the 65. The 65s are gonna go up in there. No matter what you do, no matter what signs you put up, they're still gonna go up in there. I know you don't wanna see, I had pictures of one in my yard just last week, I said, I can't believe that truck did, and they stopped, they offloaded, and they continued on. And then what they do is they come in with these, they actually have these flip-up gates, they flip up on the backside of the trailer, and they offload the package, put it down on the ground, and then they give it to the customer and they drive away.
Yeah, so I guess then you just said something that I'm curious about. So you said we're asking for a waiver for 18 feet, which can't handle the traffic flow that's there. And I think what we're saying is no, if we made the circle at the town specification for radius and width of pavement, that's not asking for anything to do with traffic flow on the cul-de-sac, it's just asking for traffic flow on the north-south, if you will. Right, we'd have to amend our waiver to say that it's just for the straight, lane by lane.
Can I jump in here?
Well, Eric, can you weigh in on this? I mean, if the cul-de-sac is a compliant 22-foot cul-de-sac,
It's a compliant cul-de-sac.
It doesn't cost you any more to do it easier, so you don't have trucks driving over onto your medium either way. And that's what I see that all the time, and there's no extra pavement.
I think
And I don't
what
wanna have a
the chairman is asking is that it is a compliant cul-de-sac. I don't believe that there's a specific, standard on how that cul-de-sac is shaped. He's just asking for you to look at that configuration to improve it slightly, to allow for vehicles leaving there to have less, potential for traveling off the pavement. I think that's all he's asking.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
May I say something? I've been listening to this discussion, and I'm starting to feel like our property down there, which is just, we're gonna have 3 houses, is the terminus for Sprague Terminal or something like that. I've lived there for 55 years, been out on that property. I'm always out in the fields, I'm always mowing, I'm always cutting limbs off trees and vines and everything else. We're constantly there. And in that entire time we've been there, we've had 2 tractor-trailer trucks that have been on that road. And both of them have had to back out. And the 3rd tractor-trailer truck that we had occasion with stopped out on Fox Point Road, and a guy walked down the driveway and said, I want to make sure what I was getting myself into before I came down here. And we went out with the tractor and picked up the stuff that he had and threw it out. So I'm hearing all this tractor trucks, tractor-trailer trucks, all these tractor-trailer trucks. I'm telling you, at 55 years, I've had 2 that I've seen there, in 55 years. I can't imagine for those 3 houses, how many tractor-trailer trucks that we would have in the next
I'm not
55.
talking, all right, thank you, I'm not talking about extra pavement, I'm not talking about, it's simply the shape of it. It's not gonna be any extra cost that I can tell,
well,
because.
but I think the board is I think Chris is talking about extra pavement. I think you're under the assumption, as am I, Chris, that the cul-de-sac is gonna be 22, blending back into an 18-foot wide road. What's shown on this drawing is 18 feet. Okay, that's an 18-foot wide road.
Okay, I'm talking about doing that with 22 feet.
Yeah,
allowance.
right.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, and again.
So just to move it along, I mean, is that something you're willing to do? Just change the cul-de-sac to 22? And then at that teardrop, if you wanna look at that, I don't, if that's less pavement and easier, I know it's not the standard, but if it's,
Why don't we have, Civil Works draw it, and then we can look at the feed pavement, and we'll also look at the watershed, and if that creates any different issues for Eric that he has to consider on drainage, as well as the topography of the lot, because that section of the cul-de-sac is also on the ridge.
From the ridge.
So there's cuts and fills there too, which will be a substantial difference, so.
But it doesn't change the right of way, it doesn't change anything. That's what I'm saying, it's just changing the shape.
Are you talking about
And what you have,
land around?
and what you have is a cul-de-sac that's like, that is P-shaped. I'm saying if you had something that's more of a teardrop, the longer trucks can take that and basically only get into the curve. In other words, over here, what was restricting it, what was causing it to go off in the center was the fact that you didn't have a cut over here, because the rear wheels are gonna wind up cutting over here. It's not taking up any more land, it's not doing any.
So we'll 22 feet of pavement in the cul-de-sac. For Braden, we'll do that teardrop and see if it changes anything relative to drainage or otherwise, and just see what it does.
Chris, you had something?
I mean, I agree, redesigning it at this point is kind of, but that's all right, it's simple enough to take a look at.
I don't know how to solve the tractor-trailer issues that are coming up here. But when we have an applicant, we have fixed specifications, that's not the time to do it.
I'll take that one step further. We actually have done something really good. We made an 18-footer going the road versus
Yes.
twenty-two.
So if you wanna stick
Your
with, if you
hard
wanna stick with
statement was less
specification, we go
hard.
to 22 feet.
Created it, was great.
Gotta be a little, sometimes just common sense will, as far as cutting the corner off there so the trucks can make that turn without putting the rear wheel off onto the grass or shoulder. It can be accomplished with the same amount of asphalt. And I say, it's a simple thing to do. We've talked about this for quite a long time. We've been trying to get this on there for quite a long time.
But we've never had a hearing to actually go over it. I used to have roads that split it off in cul-de-sacs up in my area before the library was done. And I had our own plow drivers familiar with the roads come out and not know when to start. When you have a teardrop in, when do you start on the teardrop, okay?
Yeah, that's gonna be their problem, because they're maintaining it, it would be up to them to put some grade stakes up, identifying the edge of pavement or the edge of.
That's
Let's
a,
give them,
if I may,
let's give,
They're not approved.
let me take a look and see if we can get the teardrop within the right of way that we already have established.
Just skew to one side.
Just let me see what we can do. So, if we do that, are you guys okay with 18 feet in the cul-de-sac, or do you wanna go with 22 feet in the cul-de-sac?
I'm hearing 22.
22 in the cul-de-sac.
22 in the cul-de-sac, 18 on the road. All right, let me see if I can get the teardrop to work. As long as I don't have to touch the right of way, I think we'll see what we can do. All right.
I know you gotta worry about drainage and all that kind of stuff.
It'll be simple. Well, it won't be simple, but we'll take care of that.
Steve, in the interest of time, we know we only have like, I mean, it would be nice to wrap this up by 7:15. You wanna go through the issues that we need the board to resolve? Because there's some that I wanna talk about, like the easements, just to see how we're gonna deal with
So
that.
let's talk about the easements real quick.
Yeah.
All right, so one of the issues you guys have talked about,
Oh,
Taking votes on that to give the,
what I'm supposed to
Or at
say.
least a straw poll or
So we
something.
already did that last time, is that we said we.
well, no, that was different.
yeah.
We talked, because we tabled the waiver request. Did you guys wanna do a straw poll saying 18 feet the roadway, 22 feet in the cul-de-sac?
I thought that's what we did the last time.
No, we told them to go back and do truck radiuses.
yeah, we just did
There was a straw poll for 18 feet that was favorable.
Right.
I don't think we talked about the geometry of the cul-de-sac, because I think we wanted to see the truck turning template, so I think if there's a straw poll, if someone's willing
This
to.
is where we have all different interpretations of it.
Well, I mean, everybody's mind is foggy from that meeting, but I believe 18 feet was, I think it was unanimous. Now, I guess the question is it worth doing a straw poll saying 18 and 22?
I would like that, if you don't mind.
Usually
What's
that's-
wrong, who's in favor?
What was the question?
18 feet in the driveway, 22 feet in cul-de-sac.
And so what are you voting on now, 18 or 22?
No vote.
18 on this, 18 on the road, 22 on the cul-de-sac.
Okay.
And it's just a straw vote, it can still change, but I think that's where, you gotta make it work out, I think
Thank you.
it's not binding, is what I'm trying to say.
Understood. So the other one we talked about was the easement, how to get the access, whether it's an access and then a separate utility easement, or it was gonna be a shared easement and so forth, and then Brandon was gonna go back and talk to the abutter, Lazara, and he's here to tell you what he talked to him about.
So we're gonna put the access easement and the utility easement in the same right of way.
It seems to make sense, one easement,
Seems to make sense, correct. Simple easements, less record keeping, less, dig safe issues down the road.
less
Yes,
chance that somebody wants to dig on somebody else's property because
That's
it's
correct.
And so that was really the only easement we talked about, other than the drainage easement along the, Station 10, whether we can get that back into the right of way with the if we do squish things up a little bit.
To clarify, Steve, I don't care if it's, I didn't mean to have it entirely in the right of way.
I
All I
understand,
meant,
I understand.
push it in if you can, and then
Whatever
just
we
draw
can
the
do.
right of way around it.
Yeah.
That's what I was suggesting.
So, for me, the drainage easements are a non-issue.
Okay,
Drainage easement's non-issue. The access easement and the utility easement for Lazaro's lot, they have confirmed with Lazaro, he wants them in the same, and they're gonna be in the same 30-foot easement as shown on the drawing, and we'll clarify that as well. So there will not be a separate electric easement across the lot. And those were the two big things from our perspective.
So, for both lots 3 and 4, you want to show the drainage easements on your recording plan.
Yes.
The
Yes.
drainage easements?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They are shown on the quarter plan subdivision
Is there
plan.
anyone?
I'm on sheet 3, the reason on this plan and the.
John, as far as other easements and deeded access things, I
831,
sent John
not, that's the most
a
recent.
copy of my communication
John.
between Kerry and
September 20th.
Tim Phoenix.
Oh, Tim, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, so I wanna make sure we're all working from the same drawing. I have the latest of September 30th, excuse me, September 20th. That's what I have in front of, I have also drawings that show August 2nd, August 31st, and September 20th. So, and things change on all the drawings. So,
And
so,
so,
alright, so,
your September 20th drawing, which is in front of you, is the latest and greatest plan set that you guys have been provided.
I wanna make sure that we're all working on the same.
I understand, so
The
I'm
one
just
that was
confirming that
rolled
for you.
out here is at the south.
What?
No, September 20th.
The big one says.
September
Eric,
7th.
Says September 7th, but you're all using the smaller.
So I apologize, that's the only drawing since I had, and I didn't look at the data, I put them out there just so you could look at them, so don't open them up.
Throw them away.
Use them for placement.
It is on the table.
What's that say? Do you have it in September 20th?
I don't know. Not off the top. I'm gonna be getting new plans anyway.
Alright,
So they have provision.
so let me, alright, so let's talk about the easements. I think you might be missing something on the easement, and that is, it's a private road.
Yep.
Who's gonna own the road?
So we have I sent John an email, I forwarded John an email, I regressed to CC him on it originally, between Kerry and our attorney, Tim Phoenix, talking about the language that needs to be included for the release of liability from the town, for the formation of the road maintenance agreement, association, and concerning the language that'll be published on the Mylar with the deeds that has to do with the right of access on the private road for each of the lots.
That's what I wanted to make sure. So is that an easement?
No, it's deeded, so you have, it's in the deed.
Okay. Alright,
Tim's question was whether that was in benefit of the general public or the town.
Which one? 'Cause you
The deeded access to it.
so that's, I just wanna make sure that we get that captured, because I don't wanna get into a situation where, I've never had a situation where we've never had, that I've seen, we've had existing houses which have ways of getting to the main road, and now we're putting in a new road, and we're giving them access to that new road, but it's a privately owned road, they have to have access or be able to have, I don't know if it's an easement or what mechanism there is, I just wanna make sure that they can get to that,
Yeah,
no matter who owns it.
Understood, your attorney had mentioned that, and so.
Okay, so I don't know what my attorney's saying, and what, be honest with you, John, whatever's being developed there needs to come to this board so we can see it.
Came directly from this board last
Nothing
week.
has, they only talked about the parameters,
Yeah.
there's nothing
Okay,
in
but
writing.
no, I'm talking about between the attorneys.
Oh. Yeah, she reiterated in text to our attorney exactly what was said here last week about the language that needs to be put on the deeds.
Alright.
And I'm just cautioning everybody to stop using the word private road, it's not, it cannot be a private road. It's gonna be a road built to town standards that they may not ask for acceptance, but it's still gonna be built to town standards. So, they, like anybody,
Cannot
they
put
can,
up a private road.
they cannot, they can choose not to have the town accept it. Everybody has that right, and I think the town would probably love it if they didn't ask for it to accept it, but it's still gonna be a road built to town standards.
Would an exception be, or on the Mylar be, that if a road connects to it, the road changes to full town standards?
I don't think it needs to, Jim, I mean, I mean, first of all, we're probably gonna be all dead and gone, but before that happens, but one would assume that a future planning board is gonna say, you have to upgrade this road if you're gonna connect 30 acres to it and add 5 more lots or 10 more lots or whatever. But, I mean, if you felt more comfortable, you know,
I really.
I mean, we don't know what the standard's gonna be in the future, but,
They can change it, but at least it's on the Mylar, and as we've talked
but
about.
we also, and we do, whatever note goes on the Mylar to the effect that no more lots can be added, we need to be cognizant of the fact that they have the right, this is designed for at least one more, at least one more, right?
Right. So as we had talked about, we're gonna make sure that our language in the easement documents will indicate, I think, up to 6 lots. So we had talked about that at the last meeting, so that the caveat would be there, we would have that number so that people weren't saying, gee, we come in for a 6 lot or 5th lot. So if we do a 5 lotter here, then we're not coming back to the planning board. That was the conversation we had last
So
week.
you're going back to the planning board, but not for revisiting the project.
Correct. Yeah, so if we have to do anything on that lot, we're coming back here anyways, whether it's a lot line adjustment or another subdivision, we're here again anyways. But everything we've talked about would be consistent.
I'm sorry.
Just a question for Brandon on easements. Mr. Lazar, when we spoke to him, is he willing, my comment is based on the fact that we've accepted some roads and had lingering easements that are not quieted. Mr. Lazar, is your butter in lot 4-4 willing to agree, or concur that the 30-foot right-of-way, for this case driveway and utility access, to, I'm sorry, I call it Ackerman Lane. In lieu of a shared driveway, because right now he has rights to a shared driveway. Don't want him coming back later and say, but I've got rights to shared driveway, so I'm going down this path at any time, and I have rights to use that. Is he willing to take, this great easement with all his utilities on there in lieu of the previous claim of a shared driveway? Do you think he's?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, and he understands that planning board's not giving him, that's all frontage he requires, he still requires the full frontage required by the ordinance on his lot somewhere else.
So that's up to the planning board and Dennis Lazar.
Sure, but
Yes.
I would want to make sure that in our discussions, it's clear that there's no way, because he accepts this easement, that now he says, I've got a lot of 30-foot easement approved by the planning board, and I can do anything else with the rest. He still has to comply with the, in this case, 200-foot frontage requirements elsewhere on the town road. So it's just a question that I want to make sure that he's absolutely not.
So, I mean, that's gonna be one of the conditions, Chris, that you're gonna have to impose,
Okay.
is that, the planning board's attorney's gonna have to make sure that any easements over the Acrelease property that Lazar or any other butter may have are extinguished or revised, accordingly. Because, we don't know
That
what's
road
out there.
even from the DOT, and they didn't distinguish the old property rights and different things that, just wanna make sure, I think that's what I just wanted to
Yep.
clarify.
Yep.
It's good.
Dennis, in the interest of time, Chairman, did you wanna go through your list? That's the,
Yeah, well,
in
we're
my
actually-
memory board, that was the one big thing we missed last.
Yeah, I think we are hitting these things, and I have a lot of them, I think, were duplicates of what was already been said, but I don't know, I was so tired the other night, it got to a point, I saw the mouth moving, but nothing was hitting the brain, I was so
I'm
tired.
accused of that a lot.
Was that?
My mouth was moving and nobody was listening.
Well, I'm saying, your mouth was moving and I couldn't, nothing was registering.
Steve, a comment that, both Eric and I raised with the 3-to-1 side slopes and the 24-inch deep, roadside swales, you're gonna accommodate those.
We're gonna accommodate that, we'll go with the 4. I would rather ask for the waiver for that, because I'd like to keep everything in the right of way. Yeah, it's 4-to-1.
Yep.
And with a 1-foot deep ditch, I mean, you guys have all been out there, it's sand, and we really have pretty good soils out there. But at last meeting, I wasn't that inclined to ask for another waiver, because I didn't know where we were going. But if we're here having that conversation, I mean, you guys, what's the pleasure of the board? I mean, if again, a straw poll with a 3-to-1, I mean, all the design is that way, all the drainage is designed that way right now, it's everything is with a 3-to-1 side slope with a 1-foot deep ditch. Your standards are a 4-to-1 side slope with a 2-foot deep ditch which in this case would be pretty dramatic, in that
I
field
don't
coming up.
particularly care for the deep, I'll be honest, I don't care for the deeper ditches, I really, really don't. But I do like the slope of the 4-to-1, if that can be, taken.
Well, the 4-to-1 with a 2-foot deep ditch is much wider
Yeah.
than a 3-to-1 with a 1-foot. I mean, you wouldn't even notice the 3-to-1 in this case, because it's almost at grade.
Eric, what do you recommend?
Well, it kind of goes back to your culvert design requirements for driveways, needs to be 2 feet deep. So if you go with a 1-foot deep swale, culvert doesn't work. As it's shown, right now the culvert has like 3 or 4 inches of cover. If you make that a 2-foot deep swale, then you can get your adequate 1-foot cover over your driveway culvert. And it is the standard of the town going with a 4-to-1 slope and a 2-foot deep ditch. I think that it looks better, and it just has a more gradual blend into the environment.
The 4-to-1.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I agree 4-to-1, and I also agree with the 2-foot deep from the standpoint of how it works. And the fact that Nibble Hill Road where I live has a tremendous flow of water off it, and it's not that long. When it rains, it floods, and it floods the library, and it floods down the street and goes around Little Bay Road on there. So I think having, because of the grade is similar, in the first 500 feet, that's gonna be a lot of rushing water. So the 2 feet allows you to have those little stone buildups that you properly put in there for the water to kind of stop and quiet, and then it flows over that and goes to the next one and quiets it. So it stops the rushing of water, and that's what gives the big erosion. And I don't know if that can be done.
So we're all set, 4-to-1 side slopes, 2-to-1 deep ditch.
The only thing I do want to point out is that pushes you out of the right of way.
Yep.
So you'll have a slope.
If we have to have a slope easement, we'll include that.
And what I just ask is that you make that slope easement generous, so that we keep hearing that someday, it could get extended. If suddenly the road has to go out another 2 feet on each side, that pushes that slope return another 2 feet out. So just make sure that.
Yeah, if
when you
it's a
put it
5-footer or a 10-footer, we can do a 10-foot easement, because that would be within the right of way, that'd be within the front yard setback anyways, so it shouldn't be a big deal. I mean, that's basically just a line on a piece of paper.
All right, can I just go over my things really quick and try to get them done?
Please.
Because I did the worst one, the hottest one were the ones we just did.
Okay.
Really were, and a lot of them, and I still think you're gonna find out, and if you can't, by the way, this is an exaggerated design, you may not be able to do that in that corner because of the
Yeah,
the drainage.
we'll take
So
a
I
look
wanna
at
make
it.
sure
We'll do
you
the best we
understand.
can, and we'll take a look at it.
In general, the utilities, along the roadway, right along the edge of the roadway,
You want,
move them away.
further out, yep, we know
So
that
I'm
before.
just saying that as get them away and get them out to like 20, beyond 22 feet, in other words, where a road would be. So I'm saying go, a few feet beyond that, so you're in the grassed area complete, and not in the swale as well, so the utilities don't get washed out, if you can do that.
So if we go 18 feet, we'll have a 2-foot gravel shoulder, so the utilities can be from that gravel shoulder out.
Yeah, but you don't wanna be at this, in a drainage swale either, I would think, you wanna stay away from it. But you
Well,
can-
have-
the
but
four,
it's
the
8
4 to
feet
1,
of-
you get
8 feet of slope.
so it'll be within that from the edge of
That'd be good.
gravel to the.
That's excellent,
Yeah.
that's super. You have on the curve of lot number, I think, 4, on sheet 7. Concerned about the line of sight from coming out of there, and you're limiting where you wanna put your garage, your curb cut. Would it be better for you to come back to the planning board instead of sending for a curb cut right now and dealing with it? Because that curb cut right now, you have a snowbank or anything, or trees or anything get growing in there, you're gonna have a hard time seeing what's coming around that corner. And you're putting yourself right smack in at the far end of the lot.
You're talking lot number 4?
Lot number 4.
For the proposed potential driveway location?
Yeah, you have it on the inside of the curb, on the inside of the curb.
Yeah, so if you're at the driveway, you get the best sight distance from that. Left and right.
You would get if you're on the outside corner of the curve, but you're on the inside corner. Okay, these are just notes.
Yep.
Because that can be moved. It shows like, on the same page, you show a transformer just before you get into the circle. I think it's on lot number 3, head mounted transformer.
Yep.
But it looks like there's another transformer in that curve that I was just talking about, right next to that driveway. And if you go to the blow-up drawing, which is in the back of the packet, it looks like there is one there, but it's not clear. So I'm not sure if that's your plan.
And we have the Eversource draft plan, which we'll update this now, as we're talking about the utilities.
So I just wanted to make sure that whatever it is, I guess we need to see those plans, 'cause I don't know. I look at civil people looking at the electrical drawing, so it'd probably be better to see what they're gonna be doing.
What's interesting is you're doing a construction level drawing at this stage, when we don't really have a final design from Eversource. So if we show this stuff now, your
No, I
connotation,
understand, I just think, but you show 2 transformers, I don't think you need 2 transformers as well.
whatever Eversource has given us, we'll show that. And usually they want us to put it at a property line as well, so,
Okay, and you will submit that to us?
yeah, we can if you want. I don't know
Well,
why,
it's a requirement.
the Eversource plan is a requirement.
Yeah, once you get the approval, you go get the,
Yes, so my exact point is that, so you're asking us to make changes now, that may change again when Eversource does their final design.
that's fine.
Okay, I'm good with
Can
that.
I throw something out? Don't do any changes, put an asterisk around what you don't know, leave it the heck alone. We don't cause them any more cost, and we wait and get the real thing. Unless there's an engineering reason why that's a stupid thing to do. And it could be a stupid thing to do, to basically just put an asterisk around it, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out a way of not having constant redraft if they know they're gonna move it, or they know they're gonna do the
The
electrical.
reality is
Is
that
there-
Eversource is probably not, are they gonna just fully design this project until you're ready to build
Dennis,
it?
is there a reason?
Well, yes, but no. So the short answer is that they will make a commitment to the applicant, saying that they're gonna remove the poles, and here's what our basic design is gonna be. And once they design it, then they'll, whatever, they may move a utility pole down, whatever they do. We try to show as much as we can possibly show in here, so from a permitting standpoint, the intent is clear.
Well, what you would like to design and give to Eversource is what you put down, or what you think based on what they've said, and then you wait for them to say.
That is what you're gonna see
modify
on
it.
this plan right now, is what Eversource has indicated to us, which they think they're gonna be.
Okay,
So, that's fine.
So we do have some more stringent things than what Eversource has in our,
About the looping,
Right, and about the looping and the spare conduit, basically, it's there to,
And
for your own.
concrete encasement.
ooh, concrete's in cases and giving no intent.
What? I'm sorry.
It's a requirement
I'm not
under the
talking
term.
about that right now.
No, but I
It's used
just
as
said,
flowable fill now, to see
Yeah.
if it.
global fill concrete,
I'm not even talking about that right now.
I was.
I know. I'm looking at drawing 13, you have 4 electrical conduit, or 3 electrical conduit. Is that what you're gonna install, or is that what Eversource is going to do, or what's your plan?
So again, depending on what Eversource is having us do, if you're gonna do a loop, we might have 3, but I'm not sure until we have Eversource's design.
Okay.
So we typically will show 3 conduits for what they usually have put in the ground.
Okay, you only use 2, but all right for a loop system.
But if there's 2 for a loop, then you have a spare.
Okay, that's good.
Well, I don't like it, but we'll talk to them about it. I get it.
I'm just going by what the ordinance is saying and what regulations say, that's all I'm doing, and I've done a lot of work in this field, so I'm very familiar with it. I guess we're covering, you'll be bringing utilities to each individual lot and stubbing it out.
We're gonna stub it at the right of way like we normally do.
It's on the secondary, and it's only one, you don't have to have spares for, like, you just have to have a single, one secondary, electrical, 1 comm, and 1 for telephone. All right?
Steve, could I clarify that? When you stub out at each lot, you're going to the existing homes, going directly within that lot and not crossing onto another lot.
That's correct,
Okay,
that's correct.
so the existing electrics that are here and have common transformer boxes, that's the same. If it involves one house, that's fine, you can keep it, but if it's two, you're gonna find another way to get that second, so the line stays on his property or her property.
So what we've talked about, and what typically will happen is if you have a transformer that serves two house lots, it will be in the right of way and then go from the lot line into the house, not directly across someone else's lot.
Great. Just wanted,
And that's why, one of the reasons why Eversource always tries to get us to put, or they wanna put the utility box on the lot line, so they just do this.
And what they've been doing is they've actually, Eversource has actually been sometimes making you put an easement around that transformer. So if they split it out the back, they don't want any issue going over someone's lot. So I see, they've been doing that lately too, so, but they'll work it out.
thank you.
Okay, I'm just trying to go, I'm trying not to get everything, a lot of it's already been covered, so just give me a second as I read through these.
While you're looking at this, fire hydrants, there's one fire hydrant up at the circle.
Yep.
And fire department's happy that that's sufficient for the dome.
Yeah, that's actually extending further into the, development than they require. They would actually require one pretty close to the base of the road.
But there is one 300 feet down the street,
Yeah.
so that's, you know,
300 feet either way.
yeah, either way.
Thank you.
We've got a drawing number 3, it's 3, 4, and 7. It shows a, proposed septic by 23 drainage easement. That easement, that is there, basically it's just where the water's gonna be, a flood pond, basically a flood pond, a pond where water's gonna drain into, am I correct?
That's correct.
That's really right in front of some fine access to, I mean, the best, you know, you have a location showing the proposed house.
We've discussed that, and Steve's gonna try to push it further into the right of way, maybe skinny it up and then just draw the right of way around, right?
No, he's talking about the entrance.
No, I'm not talking about this, I'm talking
He's talking about that.
Oh, lot
lot
3?
number 3.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna see if we can push that into the road.
He's gonna push it, he's gonna hopefully push it more into here, more like that. But it's a bioretention pond, isn't it?
Yeah, basically just an infiltration type line.
What I'm saying is that you're putting that right smack in the middle, your best access to that lot. If you put it on the other side of where you put, you know, if you put it on, it's got a long, I don't have a large drawing there. Do what you want, it's just gonna get, you're just hurting yourself.
Yeah, it's in front of the largest portion of the building envelope.
Yeah, if you just put it on the other side where the house is and you swap positions of the house and where that bioretention pond is, you'll find out. Otherwise, the bioretention pond's gonna be in your way of your access to the lot.
One is at the low point of the road.
Alright.
And we'll see if we can push it down further towards the end of the cul-de-sac and give
Yeah,
it
I was saying
something
going on the
more.
other side of the house, like where it's relatively narrow there and
Yeah,
where you
but
have the.
I'm 2 feet higher there.
Okay,
You have to go the other way if anything.
okay, so I just looking at
That- that- that
looking at
comes
two
up to-
dimensionals here, that's all I'm looking at, so I'm looking at from, are you really hurting yourself, and that's the same sort of thing I was saying, not with a bioretention pond, but the other lot, lot number 4, that had you up in that one little corner jammed in there, and with the rest of the open lot, access to it is wide open, you know, so I'm just saying, a lot of times what happens is, you have developments like the subdivisions, and they come back and say, gee, we'd like to move it, but it doesn't work, you know, the actual location, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Fulfill, we all know about that. Okay, so you're gonna, I think you already answered this question, you're gonna have an association?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I assume they're gonna take all the responsibility, making sure that everything's plowed and whatever, right?
Yes, sir.
Is the flowable fill just on the electrical conduit?
Typically, you put the electrical conduit and the communications conduits together, and a lot of times I've seen this, they stack them up on top of each other, then you can't get the sand down between them. And what happens years the following, a Dumpling Cove, you can see this, right smack in the middle of the road.
Just, this is going, if the utility goes across the road, you're talking about that.
Or if it's under the road, under the
Yeah,
pavement, yeah.
So everything else is traveling along
And
the
I
side
think
of the
we're
road.
at 4 feet, isn't it?
You're
Within
just,
6 feet.
Within 6
That's what, I thought it was 4 feet too, but it says within 6 feet in our regulations.
so within 6 feet of the roadway, which means we're talking
A
about
pavement,
pavement
a
section.
pavement.
And under the asphalt.
Understood, so if we're going across the road, this is my road, I'm going across here, I'm flowable fill, from there, 6 feet out, both sides.
Again, this flowable fill is, you can almost take it and crumble it in your hand.
I'm very familiar with it, it's
The Germans had a really neat name for it, I can't remember for the life of me.
money.
All right. Chris?
It's a quick question on the cul-de-sac. Cul-de-sac is designed to be for collected water to seep into the ground
Yes,
there. And on the step pipes that is there. What happens if it doesn't seep into the ground?
we have a infiltration, we have a culvert, top,
Pipe.
and an underground.
Okay. But there's nothing to do with, if that freezes, that it can't flow over the road? There isn't a drain that goes
There
out?
wouldn't be any loose water.
There's, yeah, you get, no,
I understand the slope really well,
no, we're,
and, but, you know, if you take a look at the library, they have 3 pipes that go down into the ground, and it still fills up with water, and when it freezes in the winter.
you will have no issues with water going on the ground here any time of the year.
Yeah, it's a very different
This is
makeup of
the
that lot,
best
right?
sand that you're gonna have in town.
It's a wet
Yeah.
lot.
But we did take that into account, it's a conversation we had with Altus as well, and that's why we added a couple of different belt and suspenders.
Okay.
All right, the other thing is the last subdivision we did in the town, had a real problem with the biomaterial they use in these ponds, bioretention ponds. And we went through this, which was Lydia Lane, remember that, Rick?
So
They used exactly what UNH said to use.
we
It
don't
was a
use that
disaster.
anymore.
All right,
Everything we do is now grassed.
thank you.
Well, it's still, he's talking about the media, getting the media right.
The media below, but then we always grass the top of it.
Yeah, I'm talking about the media below doesn't work.
Well, it's not that it doesn't work, it's that last project, they didn't do a good job getting the proper medium. And then this, and as Steve said, they kept wanting to modify it and modify it and modify it. As Steve said, is that process of designing rain gardens that we've been doing for almost 20 years now has changed. We started out with bark mulch, and then we went to Riverstone on the circuit, and then we really kind of come full circle and realized that the best thing is to have grass there. And
So what does grass need to grow?
so there's a layer of loam on top of that medium.
The biomedia dries out. And that's what was happening over here in Lydia Lane. They did exactly what they asked, and you found it, and I thought maybe I misunderstood something. I'm not trying to engineer your project, I'm just trying to not make
Oh,
mistakes.
yes, you are.
All right. Meeting's over, we're
No, so, let me put it this way, the bioretention basins are fairly typical nowadays, whatever the media system is here. In this case, since you have such good sand below there, you want to do exactly that. You're gonna have the grass doing what it's supposed to do, which is filtering out materials, and water goes down through. So you can't get a better place to do that particular BMP.
I have no problem with that, I think the medium was, I don't know what that medium is gonna be, is what I'm saying, and that's what's.
Well, we'll
and
work it
that-
out with Altus, we'll make sure
But I'm
that it's
saying, but that's what's
consistent.
been failing, I just wanna see you fail. And I mean it when I say that, I don't
No,
wanna see you fail.
I don't want it to fail either, but
This guy right here's got to pay for it, you're gone, I mean, it's like, I wanna make sure we get it right.
we'll work it out to make sure that it's consistent with what you guys think is the right thing to do. It's not a big deal.
The whole way.
Because
You
then
can't do loom the whole way.
it's not gonna go through quick enough. You want that loam layer on the top.
As far as the loam, I
Then
don't think it's gonna.
Then it's just a retention basin, and you're not gonna get that infiltration,
Yeah.
requirements, and it's gonna actually sit there, and then you'll have ponding for extended periods.
I thought we had that resolved, I guess we didn't, because it's still morphing.
No, I think that we did get it resolved to go to the, you know, the design that Steve presented is really where.
I'm done.
Okay.
If it fails, I'm gonna look at you and I'm gonna say, I
If
want
it
to see
fails,
you again.
Dennis, you're not living in Newington anymore. You'll be in Florida, you'll be retired.
I am retired now,
Oh.
I'm in Florida.
So, straw poll, we got it, we'll take a look at the cul-de-sac, we got that, utilities, we got that taken care of, the attorneys are talking about easements and so forth, we got that. Do you have more questions?
Yeah, can you number the pages? So I can follow them, the first four are not, I can see. Also, someplace in some of these drawings I've seen on the corners is not for construction, for permit use only, on the drawings. I just wanna make sure that the information on what we have and approved is not gonna change for what is gonna be handed to the guy out in the field, 'cause normally I see the same thing. Not normally what I see, not
So-
subdivision lines and so
So
forth.
usually when I give you back these plans for signature, we take the not for construction off the plan. Right now, for permitting standpoint, because you guys are gonna get a revised set of plans, when you guys give us an approval, you'll get a revised set of plans that you're gonna sign.
Okay.
And on that plan set, the not for construction will be removed.
Can you also put the revision number it is? I know you got the date on here, I understand that.
I don't put the revision on the cover sheet, it's on every sheet.
I understand that, okay.
So every sheet in the plan set typically will have the exact same revision number. So you won't have one sheet that says 8, one sheet that says 6, all of them will be the same.
That's what I want to know. Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you. That's it.
John? Any questions?
Well, you and I had discussions about landscaping, and I just want to get that
Yes.
done.
So-
So I think the final resolution was that you're gonna put species on the plan, bring it to the Conservation Commission?
So at the last meeting, we had that conversation, you guys had recommended we just go to conservation and have that conversation. You had a different take on that from the conversation you and I had had.
And you
So-
can run that by the board, because I may have been in
So I
another
talked to
world.
Vicky from Woodburn is gonna send me a couple of species of trees. But by the same token, Joe knows what lives there.
And I'm fine with that, yeah.
We were gonna have that conversation with Concom, so we're not proposing something to them and then come back and make a change. We were gonna have a conversation with Concom, and that would be what would be reflected on the drawings for you guys. So I didn't wanna give you guys one thing, go talk to them and change one, have to come back and change it. That was it.
I have no problem with you using what lives there at all. I have no problem with even you using the ones that are in the field. The problem you're gonna have with the ones in the field, you're gonna find out that it's gonna, because the roots haven't been pruned and trained properly, that you get in a nursery or transplanting, that a lot of them are gonna wind up dying. In order
We
to
do it
dig-
all the time, Dennis.
And then to dig them up properly, you're probably gonna need a tree spade to do it, you know, so. And I'm talking about the size caliper you need, you know, that's what you typically, we're talking about. So if they're, you know, that big, that's a big tree.
Dennis, you're correct, and to get around that, we use the backhoe and the bucket, and we take out one hell of a root ball, and when we put it back in, it's just as comfy as it was from whence it came.
Okay, all right.
And we've been quite successful at it. In fact, I don't think we've lost one, have we? No, we haven't lost any, we've probably done 50.
So,
Yeah, and I agree, putting a species that doesn't already grow there, it doesn't like to grow, it's probably they're not gonna wanna live there. The ones that are there, they're there for a reason, I get it.
Yeah.
So I just wanna make sure you understand what you're up against, and typically there's some kind of bond that's put into place for that, to make sure if they survive, but how
Yeah.
much is the bond?
Well, it's as required in subdivision.
I know that, but if they're not buying any trees and we know the cost,
Well, it would be as if they were getting new trees.
but how do you know what the bond would be if they don't buy the trees? No.
Well, we'll just call the nursery and say, what is a 3-inch red maple, that's all. It doesn't, you're gonna get the money back any, if they don't die, you get them.
So the real question is, do you want us to go to the Concom and have that conversation and then put that on the plan? Or how do you want us to do
I
that?
think you should explain to them like you just did with us, that you
Okay.
have a good.
So John, I'm not giving you a landscape plan then.
Well, then I'm not putting it on the Conservation Commission.
Damn it. I'll give you a landscape plan. I'll
I'm
put the
fine,
tree.
I'm fine, if you,
No, you need to put a landscape plan together, if you're using the same trees, you need to do that, that's something that's a requirement for all.
I would just, you don't even need to, I don't even need to know if it needs to be a formal plan, but have Joe say, look, I got 30 of these things. let's put them along there, and then ask, and then bounce it off the Conservation Commission, if they're fine, I think the planning board's gonna be fine, that's all.
So my only request is that when we're out there and we're not saying, well, we don't know what really is supposed to happen on that plan, so we need something that's definitive.
Make no mistake, you will, on the plans themselves, you will have pink tree, blue tree, pink tree, we will name them on the plan, make no mistake. It's just how we're getting there, so
That's fine.
I just wanted,
The
instead,
only thing I would tell you is that there's two things that they get not hung up on, but they're important to them. One is a diversity, because they don't want.
yeah, we talked about
Yeah,
two
and
different
then the
types.
other, and then the other thing is salt tolerant. So as long as whatever you plan is,
Native, salt tolerant, and 2 species.
yeah, sure. Well, a couple, yeah.
And I would suggest not a pine, just because of the needles close to the road.
I think, let's let them look at the
I
species,
was-
they have a lot of
Thank
trees, they have a lot of pine out there, and that's what wants to grow there. You know,
Can I-
Yeah.
And we're happy.
We're happy if they're.
From being on the Conservation Commission, this point is probably the only exception in town. Take every rule, throw it out the window. Plants come to visit, they don't live. Those that live, we are afraid of, we could lose every tree out there with beetle cats, but Joe's lived there his whole life, and I think he can do some lessons to the conscom on what can grow and could potentially help the erosion.
So John, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, on the plan, I will identify a couple of plants, we'll send that to you, we'll go to Concom and confirm that.
Okay, are those plants gonna be the ones that are native to that area?
Yes,
Okay, good.
yes.
It makes sense, I get it, but we just need a plan.
Poison ivy?
Sure.
It's gotta grow into a tree.
Um, I have nothing else.
I just have one item, it's that item 4 in our general comment, regarding when the wearing course, I don't know if we had resolved that the other night.
Yeah, we did talk about that. So the wearing course is 60% of the lots are constructing it, put the wearing course on. In this case, you already got 2 house lots that have 2 houses that are already there. If you never put another house lot on there, another house on there, and it's gonna be a base pavement, is there a time frame that we have to put a finish course on there?
Well, there's actually 3 houses.
Oh,
Well,
true.
more
Yeah,
important,
those are those
more
3.
importantly, I mean, I don't
What's the
think,
mechanism?
I don't think base course should sit exposed to sun and weather for 5 years or 6 years.
Right.
But I think that, a year is not enough, so, I mean, do we just say that the wearing course has to be put on, no later than, no sooner than 12 months after the base course goes down, and no longer than 36 months, or,
Yeah.
Something like that.
Something
Can I
to
ask you
that
a dummy
effect.
question, John?
yeah.
One of the conditions, I'm sure, is going to be that we bond the road 100%. It's gonna be up to the town to tell the construction company when they're gonna put the base on it, or the top coat on anyways, isn't it?
No.
Well, the problem is, you don't wanna put the top coat on, I mean, usually, in a perfect world, you'd build all the houses, then top coat, because you're gonna scar
So
it all up.
base course, usually we say 5 years or less. You can put 5 years, and as a matter of fact, the base course in my office was down for 22 years. And-
Just like my driveway.
Yeah, and so, but I think if you say, base course has to be installed within 5 years of date of approval,
Or
No,
we would
I
say
want it tied
date
to
of
the-
commencing construction or from when binder was
When binder-
placed.
Yeah,
alright, so,
binder
so
place.
5 years from binder placement.
Well, whatever Eric is comfortable with, I think 5 years is long, but
No, 5 years is,
I mean,
If it's
I
gonna be
think that maybe no less than 18 months, no greater than 36.
I'd rather push that a little bit more, but go 48.
It's gonna be part of the bond, but you'll want it done as soon as you can, which is over the year, that includes the winter. And then however long you wait, that money is just
That's
bonded.
3 years.
And asphalt is not gonna get cheaper.
Alright, so
Yeah.
if
18 to 36 months is typically, like, I think is probably, 18 months is usually when we do it.
I get the 18 months, but, alright, so 36 months from,
Is 36 good for everybody?
So,
I mean, the sun,
And I just heard 2 different things, and I actually heard 18, I heard cost, and I heard, the only thing I didn't hear of is, does it get you a better quality? Because I have failed on this respect in terms of roadage.
it it gets you a better if you, at the end of the day, it gets you a better product if you don't top coat, immediately. Because, you know, if they run track machines all over it, then they top coat it, it's gonna cover all that.
Settlement.
Or if there's sediment or cracks or that sort of thing, you want those will show up quickly, Jim.
Yeah.
The longer you leave it exposed to sun and the elements and plowing it, because of the larger aggregate, it may fall
Rip up.
apart, do some damage, so that's, I don't know if there's any magic number as to how long it should sit there, but I think 18 to 30, you know, it has to be paid within 18 to 36 months, that's reasonable.
And also, can you add a note saying that there'll be tack coat applied?
You mean not everyone does that?
They're doing it
Unless
now.
they're jumping in front of them. No, not everyone does that.
I had to watch, well, the guys that paved my driveway, it was very, we had that specific conversation and it was well applied. So, I get it, we do that as well. All right, I'm good with that.
Question for you, Eric. On page 8, that's the profiles page.
I have the old version, but go ahead.
So the one I'm interested in is down on Hot Point Road. There is an existing culvert that is 8-inch.
Yes.
Now that the road widths, and you know the runoff that's gonna be on the north side of that road, would you confirm that that 8-inch culvert is sufficient to take the storm flow required on that side of the road?
Yes,
The other one, the one on the south side is new, so it's 12-inch, so I assume that that's fine.
they,
Actually, neither one of them's been, they use the existing one when they put in that catch basin.
right, the
What about the new
crossculvert,
end?
12-inch
They just
crossculvert.
put a new
They just put a
is-
new end on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the,
The 8-inch CMP actually, until this project, we didn't know existed, because we've done a townwide culvert study,
Right.
and we had no idea it was there.
kinda hit it there, and it's kinda crumpled up too. And that was the reason my question.
But
So,
here,
so-
the first pass
so,
it,
Chris, as you know, when we do our drainage analysis, we do actually take that into account, which,
that's,
Yeah, I'm just asking you.
yeah, so there, that was one
So
of
it's
the
on the
points of
radar screen.
analysis, and in their first path, that's one of the things that they had demonstrated was on those points of analysis, that they had reduced the runoff to those areas. There was an area that they're gonna be looking at that they are increasing, but it's to the bay, and I'm concerned to make sure that that the channel remains stable.
Yeah,
That was my big.
we'll talk about that, it's actually pre and post watersheds.
Until you work that out. I just
Yeah.
wanna make sure it's
That's,
on your-
that's what we deal with. You guys don't need to deal with that, we deal with that.
Okay, I wanna know that you're dealing with it though, and I'm happy,
We are, we will.
so I can figure it out. I do.
There was, yeah, never mind, so we know there's no street light, blah, 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 everything else is fine, we're good.
You're pulling the stop bar off and the stops marking.
Just a stop sign, street sign, yeah.
We may have already resolved this, but at the end of the road, there was an issue of width. Did we ever come to a conclusion on that?
It's variable with, it's gonna be
Very-
50
very-
feet or more.
Yeah.
Do you have final sign off from Portsmouth Water yet?
I do have a document here that they sent to us, saying that they reviewed the, information from the consultants, and they, are going to proceed using the, 6-inch stub and turn it into an 8-inch, so we don't need to take 8-inch up the road. So,
September 23rd, Portsmouth gave us a letter that said that we're gonna use the 6-inch stub that's out there.
I believe you shared that at the last meeting.
You have that.
But, and you're gonna provide a copy and everything?
Yeah.
I have a copy.
So when we make a submittal, final submittal here, you will have a copy of all that as well. Again.
I have a question on the construction sequence. The utilities of the existing house obviously have to stay in place until the new ones are available to hook up. no problem for the overhead lines, because when they're hooked up, the overhead lines will go away. I have a question for the construction of the road and the buried ones, which is primarily the water line. One of the water lines crosses on it, as I understand that the buried utilities are, once that they're replaced, are gonna be left in place. So my question is for the water line that exists, that has to stay connected, you're gonna be building the road over it. How do you cross the road, put the new water line in, which I assume is about the same depth, and keep it flowing through there? And then, is it acceptable to the town to leave the buried water line under the roadway? Because that's the only portion we're gonna take over.
Chris, it's a
It's
two-inch
a
PVC
2-inch
pipe.
PVC.
It has to, Chris, I mean, the
Yeah.
reality is there's two houses on it. The likelihood of them hitting it is
It's 100%.
probably good.
Yeah,
Okay.
even if we do, it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't
We have a
matter.
section here, and
Right.
we just
So
go under
it's-
it,
it's
and
just
it's
a-
advantage.
Because it's a small line, it's.
Yeah, it's a small line, and it would, it could be weeks before they got water connected.
No,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
No, I understand, I just,
skimming this, it says contingent upon that valve being there.
Yep,
We know it exists because there are 2 services off that 6-inch as we speak.
and there's a tie card from
And there's a-
nineteen eighty-nine that shows,
Yeah,
from Portsmouth Water that shows it's there. So it's there,
They're just covering.
yeah, this is a CYA, or, either way, the details of the water line that have to go in the road will be the same.
Page, Steve, on page 7, this is one of my notes, I didn't capture it in my notes, I missed it. It says, you said differently, but the note says differently what you're saying, is that on note number 8, it says lots 1 and 2 may opt to connect into the water line, 1 and 8. You just said that we're gonna be,
so everything we talked about, this is before we had this conversation last meeting.
okay, yes,
So what we had talked about is.
you're gonna do that, you're gonna tie into it, that's all you have to say.
Yeah.
Also, on the note number 1, it says, for project notes, see note sheet 7. We're on sheet 7, but that's the notes. It's referring to itself. I'm just saying the very first note. It's just an error. I'm not sure if you're referring to another page maybe.
Scrivener.
All right. Anyone else?
the question on the shared driveway, the shared driveway.
The existing
The
conditions?
existing shared driveway, and I just, or note number 10 on page 3 and 4. I have a question on it. So the shared driveway, the impervious surface or pavement existing is being taken up except where it's being used for the driveway connection on lot 1, correct? The portion
Yes.
that goes
Yeah.
from
Yes.
the easement all the way up.
Yeah.
The pavement is being, you're keeping the walkway,
Correct,
but it's just the impervious surface is coming up.
correct.
Correct.
Okay, good. When you get up to the very top of north part of lot 1, when that stops, can you return that, I guess it's just gravel, down to the roadway, so somebody walking on it can connect to the road there? Isn't that what it's for? It's a walkway, in lieu of having a wide road?
The only problem, Chris, is it's on private property.
Well, it continues into the variable width right away. See, it continues all the way down.
Well, that section's being removed.
Well, the pavement is being removed, but it's still a walkway.
It won't be able to be there, that's where you have your 8-foot, 2
Yeah,
foot
we
deep,
have
4 by
soils
1.
there and,
So
It's all
it-
just
it-
the grass
it's-
area.
Just so we can wrap this up, because I know we gotta get done here. But, Steve, where is can you tell Chris at what station? Well, where is the walkway gonna start approximately?
500,
Which is on the bend.
it's on the bend.
So the remainder, Chris, from Fox Point to the bend is gonna all go away. And from there,
Yeah.
you'll see the property line for lot 1. So at that point, it'll all be on private property.
Okay.
Okay.
So it just goes up and ends, it doesn't connect to the roadway?
It won't be able to with with the drainage swales, right? Is that my understanding? It needs to be grassed area next to the road.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Well, we-
Oh,
Anything at this point? Nothing's final here, nothing until we do the final line.
Unless you wanna make it final.
Yeah, I know, good try.
One apple?
I just had an administrative question, Wallace. You have lots 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you name them what they're gonna be named in the town tax maps? Like it's, I think Lazar's is 4-4, the Acrelease, the master lot is 9-2, and then, the other ones are 9-2A, 9-2A, 2B, does it go 9-2C, 9-2D, 9-2E?
Well, let's just ask the assessor, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
we'll
the
just-
numbering sequence?
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
just talk about
just so this, the 1, 2, 3, 4 is gonna go away as soon as, and it's just gonna be, just wanna correlate them as to what they're gonna be.
You might wanna tell him, Steve or Brandon, whoever's gonna call him, you might wanna give Joe and Paul's lot 2.
Yeah.
I mean, just reserve one for it in case you split it, and that way they're sort of they're sequential. If you ever
1,
split that.
2, 4, 5.
Maybe, I mean, just tell them that there's a possibility that could be split at some point in the future. If it helps.
However
you.
they wanna do it.
However they
Talk
wanna
to
do
the
it.
assessor.
Yeah, it's their job.
Yeah, we have the road name, so we're gonna add that to the plan as well.
What do you recommend?
Windswept Way.
Sounds too close, sounds too much like Shattuck Way.
Windswept Way is what you would
If
like?
I hadn't sat through a 3-hour planning board meeting before my session last time, I wouldn't know what you meant, John. But I did.
So Windswept Way is what you would like?
Yes, please.
The selectmen are the one who choose, we just have to tell them.
Yep,
But doesn't mean they're gonna name it that.
yep, windswept is one word. The property's been known as that since the sixties.
It was on the agenda. Did it, what came up, are they gonna wait?
I'm waiting for your recommendation,
Okay.
because you told me to.
Did I get that
You
right?
did, when I mentioned, I asked him for the spelling, and
I
you
got that
jumped
right.
all over.
Windswept, one more.
Well, I'm sorry, Bob.
I'm just saying, I asked him for the spelling last meeting, and you jumped on me, so I'm waiting for your recommendation.
Okay. I don't remember jumping on that.
Well, you were in a heated state.
I remember the creaky sign, the little loop.
Yeah, that's
Did it
right.
just have a sign or was I wrong?
And there was a loon on it, right? There's a
Yeah.
black wrought iron loon.
It was like this
So,
It's still
you wanna
down
do
there.
it- You wanna do a vote on the name?
You like it?
Well, any other recommendations?
Do you love it or do you like
I
it?
love it.
Got nothing else for you.
Sounds very lovely.
All in favor of the name, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, let's make a recommendation to Windswept Way.
So can
Bob, I am
you,
so
Windswept
sorry.
Way, Dennis.
Wait a minute, wait a minute,
Wait a
wait a
minute.
minute.
Dennis,
Really,
Dennis.
I heard Bob's feeling.
Dennis, you said windswept lane though.
Right.
It's windswept way.
You better read the motion.
I think we're okay.
so
Bob, you
Brandon,
wanna write that down
That's
at the time and moment? I said, I'm sorry.
Well, you don't need to apologize to me, then. You need to apologize to me for more than that, but anyway.
I think it's time for us to leave.
Brandon, can you, we gotta do two things. Can you follow up with the Board of Selectmen? Just asking them to recommend, or asking them to vote on that name so we have it done?
I'll do that.
Okay.
Thanks, Bob.
And then finally, we do, someone needs to make a motion to continue this, we need to discuss it.
Well, what's the date?
Well, that's what we need to discuss.
All right.
It's not gonna be the first, it's not gonna be the 13th of.
Well, you got that right. So we, how
It'll
long?
be the second meeting, in
Change.
second meeting in October. Excuse me, November.
So the second meeting in
Wait a
November
minute, wait a minute,
is,
I'm thinking, you're not gonna be ready in 2 weeks.
It would be in 3 weeks.
It would be the time.
So, then normally,
2 weeks.
so. it's
Eric
gonna-
needs 2 weeks to review these plans and a response letter.
So you can't have it ready for the 18th, to the 25th.
If he has it for the 18th, then it could be on the 1st.
Our first meeting in November is November 8th. Which is
it's not 2 weeks from tonight, that's the complicated part, Eric, is it's,
That would be like 3 weeks.
it would be the 25th, so it's the 11th is an actual planning board meeting, the 25th is an actual planning board meeting. The 25th is 3 weeks away. I guess if Steve was able to get changes done in a week, but I don't know. These are complicated.
So what meetings we have in November?
We have the 8th,
Yep,
and then it would probably be the 22nd.
okay.
So I'm thinking, here's what I'm concerned about. What I'm concerned about, if I move it to the 8th, but then you come up with an issue that you know is gonna be an issue with the board, whatever it might be. You come on the 25th, you can adjust that, you can address that issue with this board, even if it's a 20 minutes. Let's say I'll pick on a cul-de-sac. Let's say the cul-de-sac turns out to be an issue. You can't do something with it. You could come to the board and at least address that, but still be working on the rest of the changes you need to make for the 8th. If we move it to the 8th right now, we can't see you on the 25th.
Let's go to the 25th.
Does that make
That's
sense?
Thanksgiving.
No, October.
Oh,
October. Does everyone understand that, what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. So if you have an issue that comes up, that while you're modifying your changes, you can come here and then resolve that very quickly. But the intent is not to create 2 or 3 sets of drawings, that have one set of drawing you're working on, if you just have an issue you need to address or need to have questions, you can do that. And you may be ready, if you work on it diligently and quickly, be able to turn it in to Eric within a week. So he can have it, and then John can pass it out to the board and be ready for the 25th or the 8th. John,
I
does that
move
make
we
sense to you?
continue this hearing until October 25th.
That's what I'm saying, his second. Okay, can you make that time? You wanna do that?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm out of town.
all right.
Who's second is that?
I'm sorry, what, I seconded it.
Oh, thank you, Jim.
All right, so then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
6 PM.
Be at 6. You actually might be second on the agenda. We have, I'm not sure who's first, John. If it's a quick question, we could put you on first. I can move it around. But I try to, we still have the other subdivision in town. All right?
Can I just get some clarity on one thing from you, Dennis? Are you saying that if we're unable to do, or we do the model out for the teardrop section of this, that the board won't consider a,
No, I just say, if there's something that we talked about tonight and it doesn't work, I just use that as an example.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work. Come back and just tell us, and we'll go, oh, okay, proceed on with the other design. But I wanna make sure we're communicating with each other.
okay.
It's to move it along. It's not to basically say, oh, you had one small item, you held up everything for 3 or 4 weeks, just to ask us that
Well-
one question.
So I'm gonna know that today's the 4th.
Yeah.
You have a planning board meeting on the 11th.
Yeah, if we go to the 25th, move it to the 25th, and we don't have any questions,
No, what I'm saying is, I can do a concept plan this week to see if that cul-de-sac works. And if it doesn't, I can come on the 11th
We,
and say it
I
doesn't
don't
work.
think you need to come, I mean, if it doesn't work, it's not gonna work. I mean, we can't make you make it work.
That's what I'm trying to
Yeah,
understand.
I don't think you need to come back here and tell us it doesn't work.
Right.
I
I
mean,
mean, I could continue the hearing on the 25th of October. You don't even have to show up. I can just say you asked for a continuance to the 8th.
We don't-
All right, let's go with that.
Brandon, you good with that?
No, the 25th, I believe is what.
25th, October
We're
25th.
going to the 25th right now. That's what we're shooting for. And if you're not ready, we can continue to the 8th. If for some reason you can't get things wrapped up. It also allows you, if you come up with any questions, you can ask them. I mean, you can always go to John and you get a sense of where we're at, but I'm trying to help you move along here.
Sure.
I'd recommend you go to, I mean, with engineering stuff, just go to Eric, you know, and, I mean, I think you're gonna know, Steve, if the teardrop works. If it doesn't work, then move on, just design
I just use
it.
that as an example.
At 22
There could be
feet.
something else that
Yeah.
is out there.
There won't be anything else.
I'll find something.
No. All right.
Good.
Thank you
you guys for holding a special session for us tonight and putting in extra hours. I appreciate the volunteerism and as well as the very late evening last week, which I think threw us all in a tailspin for the rest of the week. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the attention.
What he just said, thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Hey, Brandon, there's one thing that I noticed, after I reviewed many plans, not just here, but in my professional job. And the one thing that it's very easy and cheap to make changes on the plans, it's very expensive once you're out in the field. And a lot of planning up front and going over stuff carefully saves a lot of money.
I think you misunderstood Steve's billing process personally, but.
Oh, well, that's between you and him. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Folks, I need to take a quick break and we'll just take each other.
And I don't want you to be the pitch man. Bob's gonna do it. I know you're saying this idea for you.
Hey, now that Dennis is out of the room, windsweep's already been approved, I was just messing with him. He wanted to be a shit about it last week.
What did you say, Bob? I didn't hear that.
I said windsweep's already been approved, I was just messing
After
with
Dennis
Dennis.
is out of the room.
Get
a 10. That was excellent.
I was sitting next to him, and I asked Brandon, I said, how do you spell windswept? I wanna make sure I get it right. And Dennis turned to me, you can't say that, you have to wait till the board approves it. I was like, I'm just asking him for the spelling.
Yeah, but you went around and approved it.
Well, I did then anyway, just because he was like that.
Can you do anything else with us, Tony, so we can, make our job easier?
We do need to talk about, what do we want for name for Shackford? So when he comes back in, I think we should talk about that. Shackford. To me, Shackford, every time we hear Shackford, I think of, Shawshank Redemption, for some reason, that prison.
I think it's
Yes.
That's what I think of Shackleton, that's what I,
Shackleton.
yeah.
I think
I
it's
can't believe you said that. Yes.
Well, I love the movie, but I.
But yes, I heard the same thing when I saw the shot for I'm like, I can't believe this.
It's one of my favorite books and movies about.
But you got, that hit you when you read this
No,
as well?
I was down in the Antarctic with, Shackleton.
Really?
Yes, that's where I set me, that's where my brain went.
I don't remember what it is.
Tricky Cove, something like that.
Tricky Cove's on one, the point
That's
itself
horrendous.
has some
I think Hebert Highland.
Capacity over there or something.
See, I had all of my nieces and nephews.
How about Hubert Hollow?
Hebert Hollow.
Well, I think you should ask me. I mean, I really think it's the
I
applicant
can
that
find
should
it on the
propose a
map.
name.
You know,
I
Anyway, so
think we
this is gonna
should
be
just
the,
say, it can't be Shackford.
well, I mean, I think that's a great thing. If you say, look, it's Shackford, too close to
Shackford,
whatever, that's fine. But let them come up with a name.
There's-
People, every trucker in the world is
If there's a
confused.
historic name for it, we could make the suggestion to them that, hey, historically, that point was called, Chris
Yeah,
brought that on an old
I've
map.
seen it
was
listed
called
on an old 1800s map at some point.
I got that map. I've got a map
So-
from the 1800s.
It's not that one, it's another.
Portsmouth, not that you wanna compare yourself to the other 03801, has a that of acceptable street names, and a lot of them are past mayors and so forth.
It works great, Mark, doesn't it?
I was gonna say, we talked about the 03801 tonight already, didn't we?
So, I mean, like Connor Way or.
Well,
Absolutely.
Hebert Palatial Estates is out, because that's what I call his place now, so I think it's already got it.
That's Hebert.
So either way.
Wow.
Uh,
CR years or?
Causeway.
How about-
I don't like naming streets after people. I
No.
think that gets too,
Especially if you find out later that they did bad things.
You mean,
Yeah, we'll have to rename them in 100 years.
Yeah, then you got
Right.
to statue down, rename the road.
like Bill Cosby Way,
Yeah.
or,
Yawkey Way.
Yep.
in the
Historic.
nautical theme. I like that.
Windswept is a beautiful name.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
What do we have tonight? Looks
And
like
There's a whole
I mean,
variety.
there's nothing that are like that.
There's one in there, with cyanide.
that looks like a mess.
They're really good.
That looks like, is that an Empire?
Probably no bigger than this.
No, that's a,
Halloween tree.
that's a,
Dude, and
Gila.
Chris,
Gila, oh, I like Gila.
Gila's really
what
good.
are those trees? I call them Halloween trees. The most beautiful park in the world.
I'm gonna have one of those, I think.
They look like.
How'd you like that Macintosh? That variety, there's a different variety of Macintosh, I like the one I got.
bourbon, yeah, very good.
Park is so good.
Alright, John, I'll have the agenda. Alright, so the next thing on the agenda, the selectmen have asked us to look at some new potential town property, the former off-ramp for Woodbury Avenue, which is Patterson Lane, to make recommendations to the selectmen about selling the property. So, is everyone familiar with what I'm talking about? John passed out some information on there.
Now Dennis, when we're talking about, what are we talking about selling?
Okay,
The piece that's up next to the Spalding Turnpike, what about that little?
Yes.
No.
We're talking about the whole thing.
well, I,
No.
No, wait. We're talking about both of them, whether or not we do both is up with what we recommend.
yes.
So that's what I'm saying, so make sure it is one lot, but it's A and B, but we're talking about both.
Chris,
If
can I-
it's sold, it will be two individual lots, we're not gonna have a lot on two sides of the road, are we?
Chris, can I just, let me just, first of all, Mark Phillips is sitting here, pretend he's not here because we can't, the selectmen, actually, I think from what Dennis and I understand in talking to Mark and John Radigan, today, I do think the selectmen actually have a right to sell it to Mark. I don't know how they're gonna sell it, but Mark is the logical buyer because he's the only abutter to this property that could really benefit from it. The Bean Farm there's conservation land there, an easement on that property, so it wouldn't make sense for them to have. So, if Mark were the successful, purchaser of this or one or both of these properties, he would, I'm sure he would assimilate them he would, eliminate the lot line between them and his other properties. And that's a concern that Dennis and I discussed today with Martha, is that if this is a sealed bid sale, somebody else buys it, which I don't know if anybody ever would, what the hell would they do with it, you know?
Resell it to Mark at a higher price.
Well, that's
exactly what I
actually
brought
Dennis's
up.
concern.
Put up an Aroma Joe's.
And that's why if it was sold, you know, it was sold based on the appraised value, the selectmen could control the sale, so, you know, one of the things that we thought about doing was, and again, I'm getting probably ahead of us, but, ahead of Dennis, but if you did make a recommendation, you agreed with the sale of it, maybe recommend that the selectmen have control of the sale, because, and it would be nice if Mark doesn't end up with it, it's gonna stink.
Give everybody something to expend.
So what I'm concerned about right now is we're starting to get into what I consider to be proprietary information when you go sell land and you have someone who wants to buy it sitting right there in front of you. It's like, we're sitting there talking about how we want to, what we think should be sold, or how it should be sold, the terms. That's an unfair advantage, and I'm almost at a point, Mark, it's not that, it's like you would be sitting in with someone you wanna buy land from, and you're talking to them, and they're talking about what their bottom line's gonna be. You would love to know what that'd be.
Price is not a part of this conversation.
It's yeah,
Not
but
at all.
I understand, but still, it's the,
This town-owned land, I'm only looking at the outside of the road, between River Road and Spalding Turnpike.
okay, so,
And it's virtually unbuildable right now because it's impacted by too many gas easements, and the main fuel line that feeds Pease is to the right of the gas line that I show here. So all of that land is non-buildable. It would serve as parking for what I show as the storage barn, 19-2, to the right of it. And if that were
there's also the proposal of
So,
the.
wait a minute, I wanna say something before you get into it. Mark, there's gonna be a point where we're gonna talk about with all that you know about the land, what you like to say, then I'm gonna go into a non-meeting, all right, with the board.
Fine.
All right, but I just wanna let you know that.
Sure.
Okay, so, we'll get to that point, but if we start crossing into an area that we shouldn't do that, I will let you know and I'll stop the board meeting, okay? So is that there with everybody? So if I cut you off, it's for a reason, it's not to be rude. All right, so go ahead, Mark, I'm sorry.
So, what I show is a storage barn, lot 19-2, as is today. I could probably build maybe a 4,000 square foot structure on that land. Very limited. If we were to include the town-owned land, then the setbacks basically go away, and perhaps I can do a 10,000 square foot building, and use the town-owned land for parking only. And that way, I've got a customer, it's a resident, it's my neighbor, he runs a machine shop in Massachusetts, it's a high-tech, it's like a Wilcox on a small scale, and he'd love to put his, machine shop right here on this piece of land.
So you're talking about between River Road and this Spalding Turnpike now? right?
Yes.
Okay, so.
That's all.
Okay, I thought you were talking about the one where you.
No,
Okay.
that's,
Town and then
that's,
across the
You
street.
kinda missed that boat.
well, that's, I
I'd
mean,
like to,
I'm
John,
supposed to
before we go
maintain
ahead,
it and
I'd
mow
like
it
to-
and whatever.
I'd like to
It's
answer
great.
your question. Is this the lot, you have property A, you cross the street and you have the parking? Is that a correct statement? Let's see, town.
No,
Okay,
No.
so
both on
is
the
it
side.
just the town on the corner lot next
Yes.
to your storage barn?
Yes.
So
No.
it's just
So I-
the one,
I outlined it in red after I said that too.
No.
Mark,
The
you have
other
to,
one,
the one across the street?
yes,
Okay,
Yeah.
mine's not in
everything
red.
between River
Yeah, so-
Road and Spalding.
This may be,
No, we got it, we're good.
okay, all right.
Oh, backwards.
So Mark, I just wanna make sure that you understand, there's the Air Force easement on there too, right? You know that?
I just mentioned
Yeah,
that.
you said that, but I wanted
The
to,
fuel lines go
I
on.
wanted to make sure, but there's also a high-pressure gas line there too.
It's in the packet.
That's right.
Right, and there's also,
Small packet.
Well, I'm well aware of it, I've got all that, I sent the, Keith Coder has engineered this to death with, the DOT, and he sent me the plan, but it's all black. If I tried to print it, my printer would blow up, it's all on a black screen,
yeah,
so I couldn't reproduce it.
so it's also, you also have an electrical line going across there?
There's a number of utilities, yes, to the point where it's non-buildable, it's only.
Right, but I'm just trying to get all the lines. There's electrical lines, and I only know those three things. Is there something else?
Well, did you, were you able
well, the
to,
electrical lines
Keith Coder's thing
also include
Yeah,
from DOT?
major communication of.
I don't think the encumbrances are the board's concern. I think the board's concern is this land, the planning board deems valuable for the town to own. Mark is well aware of the easements, they will be his problem if he buys it. We're not here to do a title search for him, he's done that, and the board of selectmen will either sell it to him, he's gonna buy the lot with all the encumbrances and easements that go with it. So you guys gotta decide from a policy standpoint, does it make sense to hold on to it or not?
And I guess, so just for clarity, it is one single lot, there are two, tracks.
Correct. What's our line?
So it's all or nothing.
No,
A and B are together,
no.
you're telling me A and B are together?
No, it's just,
No, the board of selectmen,
No, they're not.
no, the
Okay.
board of selectmen can opt to sell only parcel A.
this is show the, when it's highlighted in red, it's easy to see.
But Eric's point, Mark, is that it's one lot of ground.
Mark,
True, which
this one
includes,
shows you, this is the storage building, right? Right there?
where this is, here.
Okay, so which place are you in?
This is the town, right? This is what's shows the best.
Okay, and that's the one you're interested in?
Yeah, that's all, that's all. That's it's easy to see when it's in color.
Mark, when you're back, do you happen to know the different easements that cross the property, the easements that would cross this parking lot? If you could just list what those easements are,
Well,
are
there's
there
the high
1,
pressure.
3, 5?
There's a Northeast Maritime's high-pressure gas line that goes across the river.
Okay, the gas line.
That's the one that's depicted by gas easements. That's 30 feet wide.
Isn't
And
that
that
one
goes-
shut down, that's the jet line, or is that
No.
different?
No,
It goes across the river to Elliott.
Okay.
and that, and Jim, that goes under his parking lot on the storage front.
Yep, live. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
No, just trying to understand.
yeah.
Thank you.
And to the right of that are the fuel lines associated with the underground service to Pease from the major tanks on the river that supply the fuel to
They don't, see, they're abandoned, they're abandoned,
Is there an existing
Okay,
easement?
well, I mean,
with
they're still
that?
there, but
they're still there.
Is there an easement with
So,
that?
the town would be selling this as a non-buildable lot, in my opinion. You could put that right in the deed, it's just for parking purposes. You know,
Actual, like, just for example, this is a silly example. You just said non-buildable, it's only parking lot, this abandoned fuel line couldn't be used to throw fiber optic across the road for a
well,
long
I mean, it's buildable to the, north of the, what shows as a gas easement, so I misspoke, part of it is buildable, but the majority is not.
If someone were to buy this, I think what Mark's point was, and I think we would all agree, if someone were to buy that parcel, it's not buildable. There's nowhere you're gonna put a, I mean, you could put a shed on there. Mark is the only one that could, if he built a building on lot 19-2, it could go over onto that lot, but in and of itself,
Setbacks go away.
the setbacks go, in and of itself is worthless, so.
And we get 2.5 times a potential, is it an AutoCAD or is it a manual nor and fine mechanic shop? Or is it more of all automated?
Oh, it's all, I haven't been there, but it's all high-tech,
Yeah,
you know,
it's CAD machines.
exact engineering is the
Well, it's
name of it.
jobs versus no jobs, or lots of jobs, or it's taxes.
But I mean, the decision that you guys should look at is, do you think that this serves any potential future benefit? And if it does, then, the town should hold on to it. I don't, the piece that Mark is not interested in above the storage barn, I would think the town would probably just keep it, cause it would have been, it's too bad Mark didn't have it when he built the storage barn, but the horse sort of left the barn, and that's, and that wouldn't be bad to have extra right of way on River Road in case you wanted to change it, and that is an odd curve.
Used to be a cul-de-sac.
Yeah, that's what Dennis said.
Yeah.
So, I think personally, I think that makes sense for the town to hang on to that piece, but,
Okay, can I, Eric, you wanna say something?
I was gonna say, I don't see any,
Okay,
our
sorry.
decision today is whether we think we should keep the land or not. I think that's a pretty simple.
it's actually a recommendation of the Board of Selectmen to authorize the sale, I guess, or to proceed with the sale?
We recommend that we don't hold on to the land.
That's fine.
All right, so, first of all, I wanna go with some of the history of the town. The history of the town is they don't sell land. That's been their policy all along. They just don't do it. So this will be the first time we're doing it, that I know, in modern history, since I've been around this town. Rick, you've been here. The policy has been no sell. Policy has no sell. Only thing we've done, we've had some slivers of land that both of them are on Shattuck Way, and actually one was on Shattuck Way and the other one's down on, Teasel, Jim Wilcox Way. They gave us some land, then they needed a little bit back to make their curb cut, make the security thing work. So we gave that back. It came up to a town road, but it was something about the size of his desk. The same thing was also true by Lanier.
Yes.
We did a little sliver of land down there, same sort of thing, and we went to a town vote, we gave it to them. It wasn't even didn't put it out the bid. This is so small, and I think the policy, as Bob looked into, and policy has been that you should be as transparent as possible, and when you have large tracts of land is what people are looking at. What we're looking at here is something almost falls into the category of those other two pieces I told you about. But everyone wants to be transparent about it and make sure we get it covered. But John, I do wanna ask about, there's a couple of things that are on there, like I heard Coda was talked to today, and he's with the electric company? Is that
No,
correct?
he's DOT.
All right, Coda, that's right. There is a power line going across there, and there is no easement. And the reason why it's there is that power lines are allowed to follow roadways by right, as by state law. The road's gone. So that power line is there, if we were to sell it, the applicant or the person who buys it could say, get off the lot. And by all rights, I think, they may be able to do that. There would be a battle. I want to make sure that we include anything that we catch like that, to make sure that the proper utility is identified, and let them know that prior to a sale, they need to have probably some kind of easement in place, or there'd be a mechanism to whoever it's sold to, that they understand that the easement is there and grandfathered, or there's going to be an easement and then grandfathered. Or move the lines. I don't know what it is, but that's the reason why I want to discuss that particular easement. And that's where I was going to. That's the reason why, John, I think it's important to look at those things and make sure we don't screw up here. So that's my recommendation. I also have, I think we need to at some point talk about the discussion we had with an attorney. So at that point, but is there any new information that anyone has of right now? Mark, do you have anything?
Not really.
I think we're leaning towards doing something like that, but I wanna make sure we probably have that discussion, so.
Just be aware that the elevation change is probably 30 feet from Spalding Turnpike to River Road, so it's got, challenges with the land for some purpose, so. It could be terraced though for parking.
Very creative.
Been surveyed? When's the last survey?
Everything, yeah, the highway department surveyed the heck out of this.
I believe the fuel line is very deep there.
Which one? Which fuel line?
The aviation fuel.
It's, okay, it's abandoned.
It's abandoned, but it is scheduled at some point to be removed to a point but once it got to a certain point going under the Spalding, they were actually gonna fill that with flowable fill. And so that, I would encourage whoever who's buying it, look at the Air Force plans that are on file at the town hall on what is happening in that area. If someone were to.
And you don't have to dig it up if they wanna fill it from that.
No.
Do you know for a fact it's not already filled and capped?
I do know that.
Okay.
Is this a deeded piece of property?
The town owns it, so it was a road.
Well, the town owns it, but is there a deed for it?
It's,
You never know, Russ.
It used to
There may
be.
be.
Maybe.
You never know what's on there.
It used to be Woodbury Avenue. First it used to be Old Dover Road. Then it became, which was the DOT road. Then it became Woodbury Avenue, DOT road, and it swung down, connected with River Road, which was also DOT road at one time. I don't know. Because it used to be the
I think
route,
so.
it used to
I
be
think that
Route
was
16. Used to be Route 16. So, and so that's really the DOT that has the background.
I suspect, Russ, there's no deed.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say, is that it sounds like the answer is no.
Probably not.
In which case, I actually would say, I guess to sell it, we'd probably have to get a deed, make a deed.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty common, but yeah, I'm sure, I would doubt there's a deed on it.
I would too.
You know, because the other thing I was wondering about was, you're saying that it's not buildable. I'm gonna say that, I mean, in my opinion, it seems like it should be buildable, subject to the easements that are on it.
Oh,
But
sure, yeah.
I'm not sure that we know what.
Technically,
Yeah.
it might be buildable. I think everyone's just saying as carte blanche is that it's not buildable with all the encumbrance, but there may be areas on the site.
And I get it, but I guess that, number one, it seems like we need a deed, and number two, it seems that the easements need to be identified on the deed.
That would be the responsibility of the selectmen and the buyer. And what I would encourage maybe the planning board add to their recommendation is that any and all expenses be borne by the person buying it. So that legal fees, there's gonna be a fair amount of legal fees, that those are incurred by the
Okay.
buyer.
And then I guess I'm gonna just continue on with what you were saying about the board's responsibility, and I guess it sounds to me like our big question is there any need for the town to own this piece of property? Right, does this do the people?
Well, I
any
would
good?
I would go further than that, Russ. I would say, is there any, even future need that we haven't envisioned? I mean, were it not for the fact that there's a 30-foot elevation difference between this and another road, I mean, could there be an access there someday? I mean, probably not. There's no, I mean, but the topography prevents really anything from happening there. But there may be other uses that I don't know about, or,
Yeah.
so,
But it,
I mean, I remember when Mark was going through the first storage barn, I don't know who I was talking with, it might have been also when we were first looking at the Air Force on fuel pipe removal. I said, well, geez, that's town land, that might be available for someone to buy. And someone from town said, no, we don't sell land. And I don't remember who that was, but I do remember that.
I know Jan Stewart said that, and Carr said that, and it was,
Yeah.
I think it was Rick, I'm not sure if you were on that or not.
Not when he was doing his storage.
It might have been Mike Marconi who said that at the time.
I can tell you that when I was on the Conservation Commission, we were always looking at the different lots and trying to see the historic values and trying to see how, what, where for the next. And we're running out of places in terms of what the town owned or what the town could potentially buy. So a piece like this, that's, I won't say semi, I'll say 80% landlocked, 90% landlocked by an individual that could use it to bring in a bigger industry for taxes, kind of sounds something that I would be very happy about. I don't see that being an historic piece down at Chattaway is a moneymaker for the town, and and I'm gonna say it, it's going to maintain, at least if I can add it, beauty. We have to give it and make it really nice looking for people to wanna have businesses there. Those two things, this town will be in great shape. And the mall, but we're talking Chattaway right now.
what about the property to the south? That's a conservation easement, right?
it's actually not a conservation easement, I think it's a view easement. Yes, you're right, it's encumbered by an easement. Yes.
It
Yep.
is, it's more than a view easement.
Okay, yeah,
It
it's-
is a it was set aside
Yep.
as a conservation easement.
Yeah, but yes, yes, the Northeast Medical, the whole south side there is encumbered by an easement that it won't be developed, yes. So they're not,
It has
or-
little
or-
value to them.
Or it could be traded. Conservation companies all the time trade one conservation area for another one of higher value. So, it has potential there. Second question I had is the water line. Do we know, does the water line turn and go down Woodbury Avenue? Does it cross onto the Spalding Turnpike? The fire department probably knows that, but it's a question of where that water line goes. I know you can build over it and other things.
I've
but-
seen it on a plan, and I don't remember where, I
And
think
they
it goes,
just stub out right there.
I think it goes up to Woodbury.
That would be my guess, because that's where obviously the road used to be.
I think that is a source of
We have
revenue,
that
so I don't want that under anyone's property, I want it under the town's property.
Anyone else? All right. The other value to that property, which I'm glad to hear the Air Force hasn't plugged that line yet, is it's a conduit to the other side of the falling turnpike. And I'm looking at that, you could line that with another PVC pipe or something that septic could use, sewer could use, at the original line from the drive-in theater, or if they failed, or if you ever wanted to connect to anything, I don't care what it is, you could use that, because there's two, I remember 14-inch steel, carbon steel pipe that wanted to go into the falling turnpike. And if you ever had that main line fail, where the septic is, and then people will need to get sewer across, or anything, even fiber optic, anything, then you need to cross the highway, anything you cross the highway with, you have that line. Even if you use it as a if you use it as just a conduit to put another line inside of it, so you can.
I believe it's contaminated, that's why they wanna stabilize it with loam, so. But
No,
I love your idea, and I believe in the idea, and that's something I think the town should own and not give up.
well,
If we have the ability to get from point A to point B, and we can run a line, we should keep it, keep it outside of the sale.
you could maintain an easement there. too.
Easement
That,
doesn't.
I would not sell an easement to save my life, because I have seen so
So
much
you
money
could
made
create
on
an
easements.
easement, you own it now, you
I'm-
create an easement in the future.
But you don't own it now, Air Force does.
No, the land area they own right now. And you can not, you can sell the property but maintain an easement through there.
This is non-private, I think this is a good time to,
Yeah, probably is.
I think.
Mark, do you have anything else you wanna add?
Not really, I'll leave the room if you want me to.
Yeah, I think, but I will tell, I'm going in before we started having any discussions up until, I'm trying to find a way to make it so that this land can be sold, but
I mean, you can retain the rights to do whatever, like you're suggesting, because it's just gonna be.
I agree.
Parking on.
Yeah, we're not getting any textiles from it, I understand that, so.
Yeah.
I wanna make sure we don't sell it, and then we turn around and go, oh crap, we missed this, I just wanna make sure we get it right. That's all.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, why don't you give us, thank you very much for coming, and, I'd like to have some discussion with our attorney told us today, and have that discussion, if you don't mind.
Very good, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much.
Hey, take an apple. I'm serious.
Okay.
Take a couple.
Price of exit.
You know.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, so we talked to the attorney.
So I'm taking minutes today, right now, what am I doing?
It's a non-meeting.
We can't have a non-meeting.
You can't have a
We have to
non-meeting.
report.
We're
Turn the
discussing
recorder off.
a memo from legal counsel.
Yes, we do, we have memo, that's what I was going to.
Why did you let me finish? You can't have a non-meeting, Dennis, without a lawyer present.
Lawyers can be.
all our lawyers are
Then it's a non-public session, it's not a non-meeting, the only non-meeting you can have is with a lawyer.
You have to follow the RSA's if you wanna have it closed
So
up.
I'm happy to, I was gonna say non-public session to discuss legal advice, that's fine, but in non-meeting, the lawyer has to be here.
I didn't think they did.
I can just set my pen down, it might be easier.
I got it over there too.
Why don't we wrap up the meeting and then call it a night?
Sounds good.
I asked him to leave. You close the meeting, and you can't do that. You have to follow an RSA to close.
I know that, I thought,
Then
You
let-
can't-
then
can't do
why,
it
why
unless-
doesn't someone make a motion under 91A to have a non-public session to discuss the advice from your legal counsel?
So made.
Second.
okay. All in favor, actually, I have to do,
Roll call.
roll call. Bob?
Yes.
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 Yes. I don't have to. I don't have to vote, you've got someone came back, right?
No, we're still short two, I think.
You're still short?
No, you can't fill in for Bob.
What?
You can't fill in for Bob.
Selectmen's rep.
We're missing two people, we're missing Ben and,
Peter.
Peter.
I object,
Jeff, why?
because I don't think it's legal.
All right, take a few minutes. I was positive we could do a non. I was positive we could do a non-meeting with legal advice from our attorney.